pivot tables. So here we've got some data here. I've got some months going down here, and I can mess them up a bit, so they're random. They're going in and out. I've got revenue, I've got labour costs. So I'm going to insert a pivot table, which is insert up here, and then we've got pivot table here. I'm going to insert a pivot table. Now it's having a bit of a guess, and what it's done. So we'll come out in here, and we'll highlight. So I've got the titles here of my chart on my table, and then I've got some various different options we've got here. So I'm going to put that in there. That sets it up, and up comes my pivot table fields on the right hand side. So I can click that on to my rows. Yeah, and I put them on like that. Now I've got these other ones in here. I've got value. I've got various different things that I could be moving around in here. But pretty much that's what I'm going to do. I need to introduce a pivot table. I've got some months, and then I've got some values that I'm going to put in. Now what's happening in this pivot table? What it's done is it's gone and added up all of the various different amounts. So it's gone through and searched for all the unique numbers, amounts of these ones here. So there's only so there's maybe 2 month 6 in here, but it's 1 month 6 in here, and it's added it up. So that's pivot tables really in terms of that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually here do the alternative, because you can see that was a bit messy and it's not as good. And this is, I think, this is where the syllabus is a bit backwards, to be honest. So I'm going to use a different equation here, which is going to be equals SUMIF. And I'm going to highlight the row here, and then I'm going to put a little comma, and then I'm going to put equals to a cell, and then I'm going to put that one there. So I've gone SUMIF. I've got this column here. Whenever you find this in this column here, add up whatever's in this column there, and that's the same. So you can see it's put up with the same answer. But what I could do, then I could go and just have month 1 here. I'm going to reorder this down here like this. So I've got month 1 till 12, like that. And so you see as I drag down the months added on months on top of it, and I'm going to put in here revenue. I'm going to put in labour cost. And I'm going to write this equation in there, equals SUMIF. And I'm going to go, I'm even going just into that range. Whatever you find in that range, that cell, comma, add up whatever's in that column there. SUMIF. There we go, 25. And I'm going to drag that down. And so you can see, instead of having this one, which is jigging backwards and forwards, not in order, I've got this one here. And also, any months I've got 0 that I wanted to see what they were, but they were 0 in here, I've included. So I've done that for that one. Now I'm going to do this. I'm going to switch this so you can see the equations going on. So I have switch this back so you can see it. Punch that down as well. Right, so you can see this equation here, SUMIF. Here. Instead, what I'm going to now go and do is I'm going to F4 and create those to be little dollar signs. So when I drag this down, it's not going to move, but also when I drag it to the right, it's not going to move. I'm going to do that there. Right, and then I'm going to drag this down here. So I've set it up like that, and also then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold that equation there. Ready? Drag that down, and then I'm going to drag that to the right, like that. So it's going, look in this column here. Whenever you find this, and in this one, then it's going to go to the right. Actually, it's not going to go to the right, because I'll just allow it to move to the right by taking out that dollar sign. Let's go to the right one here. So that's going to add up column E. Okay, let's just switch that on. Okay. So what you can see is this is pivot tables here. That's going and find all the unique values of the months, and then added them up in there by insert pivot table in here. But the alternative, which is probably the better way in real life to do it, is to use a SUMIF equation. You can see that month 4 here is this month 4 here. It's got a sum. It's added up all the months 4s. Found this and added up everything in that column there, and it's looking up with the same 61 and the same 22.4. But what you can then do is you've got the ones where there's no data in there that you wanted to return, and also as well, then the bottom line, I'm going to put the total in it. Okay. But you can play around with this a lot more. It's easier to format. It's easy to muck around with what I mean. You can see this one's quite difficult to format and what have you. However, it's in the syllabus, so we have to do our pivot tables, and that's that. Even though in real life, they're not that great, and especially what's sort of surprising is when you see some really, really big and quite expensive spreadsheets, often produced by consultants, and they're using pivot tables when really they should be writing this out more like this in terms of equation form. It's much more flexible and has a lot more ability to produce reports and move things. You can't really do anything with a pivot table. Once it's done, it's done. That's it produced. So that's pivot tables though. But this is only a low level sort of spreadsheet course. Now the next one then, we're going to insert. Let's take all this comments out, and now let's come and do our insert and pivot chart, which is there. There is pivot charts. So insert pivot chart in here. We highlight our range, our data range in here, and that's okay. And then up comes our various options. So we go months and the row labels. There we go. And there we are. We can sort it out. We can just put those in and select them. You just play around with whatever the selections are up there. So the advantage of pivot tables are that they are very quick to produce for this data, and it's very quick to produce that chart. If you compare that to the previous video where we're trying to produce the charts, it took a lot longer to produce. The downside of pivot tables is that they're not really very, this is as good as it gets, and also you have to keep mucking around with it when the data changes and what have you. So what tends to happen in real life is somebody goes along and says, oh, that's really interesting. Can you just tell me about that? And you go, can't really, because it's in a pivot table. So what I tend to do is in every single massive spreadsheet that I get with pivot tables in there, I scrape them all off and go back to the source data and rewrite it. But that's pivot tables for you. Look, thanks for listening.